Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Tommo, and welcome to my pre-race Chinwag for the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix. Coming from my studio. I'm not in America anymore. I was in New York. Flew back this morning. Very little sleep. I got about 3 hours in early on when I got back. So apologies in advance if I'm not quite at my prime, okay? Because I'm an unrest boy. And actually, during my kind of 3 days in New York, not 2 nights in New York, I walked almost 60 kilometers. That's over a marathon. And so, yeah, I'm aching. I'm physically, but there's no better way to explore a new city. I've never been to New York before than to do it on foot. So I'm just getting my excuses in early doors for any bad takes, for any, for any struggles on this stream. Then you know why. Welcome, David, Jeff, Harv, Nicolette, Echo, Aaron, Sleepy, Sensational Salmon, and Jessica from New Zealand. Love it. Love to see it. Welcome everyone here live on YouTube. Welcome to everyone who's listening to this audio only version on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or video version on Spotify as well, because I upload a full video recording after the fact onto Spotify so you can watch it along as well. And Patreon, if you want to support me on Patreon, I will be doing a Patreon exclusive live stream straight after this one, about 10 minutes after this one. I'll talk a little bit more about why I was in New York, give you spoilers to something quite exciting that's upcoming on this channel. So if you want to support me, you can, all right? Links in the description down below to support me. Soft, medium, or hard tier. Lovely, jubbly, happy days. Let's talk round 22, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Las Vegas, we're back. We're back. I was in the States, not at Vegas. And I mean, I'd love to go one day. It's not top of my, I'm much more Austin. For me, Austin's the one that's really front and center that I'd really love to go to next year. I'd just love to see a bit of Texas and take that in, try and get a week out there next year. That's probably number one for me. But, if someone wants to pay for me to go to Vegas, if I don't have to stick my hand in my own pocket, then I wouldn't say no, would I? I wouldn't say no. But yes, we're back in Vegas, second time around. Now, of course, first year of any Grand Prix, there's always going to be some teething problems. You look at Miami, for example. I went in 22. The first year we got the Miami Grand Prix, and it was a cool experience to go, don't get me wrong, but there were a lot of things that weren't as good as they are now, basically, at Miami. From what I've heard, multiple people who go to these Grand Prix on a regular basis think Miami has really improved since that first year. They've moved everything into the Hard Rock Stadium itself in terms of the kind of paddock access and opened things up a bit. It was all a bit tight and a bit... Yeah, it didn't feel like the finished article the first year at Miami, and perhaps we'll say the same reflecting on Vegas. Obviously, I'm not there; I can't judge. And look, the fake marina, Harv, the fake marina is just now an inherent part of what makes Miami, right? But Vegas down the strip. How long will we have the strip? Look, there's been a lot of murmurings as to the long-term viability of this Grand Prix down the strip, because of course it is incredibly disruptive to a lot of the businesses, a lot of the local residents. Vegas is the kind of place you just think about when you're not from Vegas. You just think about the casinos and nothing else. You don't realize that it's actually a city where people live. So it can be making that balance right can be difficult. And how much more can the Grand Prix organisers do to make this race a more sustainable sales pitch to the local community, as well as, because it's cool having a race down the strip. When you watch the broadcast, you have the helicopter shots, the aerial shots that do showcase, oh, we're actually in Vegas. But it is hard to really capture that, I think, as much as I was hoping, I would say, in the first year. You've got the big catch fences. You've got all of these, especially a street circuit, right? You've got to have safety as a prerogative first and foremost. And it is hard to show it's Vegas on track. Maybe there's a few more camera angles. I'm really interested to see when we see practice how they're going to cover it and whether there's a change up from last year. Just to make it feel as Vegas as possible. Because if you're going to go to all of this all this trouble of putting a Grand Prix down the strip, then you want to make sure that's communicated on screen. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Jaguar logo makes me sad. Oh, sense. I know. Just don't think they've done a very good job. But yes, round 2 Vegas is here. Last time out as well. Pretty good race. We had absolute shenanigans into turn 1. And there's no support series, to my understanding, this weekend. I could be wrong there, but I don't think so. And so we had a lot of trouble into turn 1. Max pushed Leclerc off, got a 5-second penalty, which I think was fair. And that's not British bias because Charles Monegasque. So have some. You had a lot of people spinning. You had Science and I think Lewis, and one of the Saubers got caught up in it as well. It was quite chaotic into turn 1, which, you know what, like a bit of chaos ain't such a bad thing sometimes. Is the mic cutting out at all? Aaron thinks the mic's cutting out. I think it's okay. But I'm just going to carry on. So yeah, the Grand Prix got underway. We had a bit of a sloppy one from George, didn't we? When Max threw one up the inside and he turned in, not expecting Max to be there. And that caused damage. And then, of course, Charles made his mistake, let Checo past for P2, but then the final corner of the final lap launches it up the inside. One of my favourite overtakes of recent times, gotta say. Just the lunge from Charles Leclerc to get it stopped, to get it turned in. Ooh, beautiful. Lovely, jubbly, very, very good. It was a cool Grand Prix last year. The top 3 were split by not very much. Of course, again, Max obviously had his penalty and copped a bit of damage from George crashing into him, but yeah, I mean, I think for a first Grand Prix, it set a pretty decently high bar. So hoping for more of the same this year. Obviously, it's expected to be a bit of a Ferrari track more than a McLaren track. And then the Red Bull in the hands of Max, kind of, I don't think we've had enough data points since the update to that car in Austin to really say for sure whether they've got on top of their kind of recent gremlins. This will be another data point to look at, and yeah, if anyone can make it count, it's Max, right? The chances of him converting this Drivers' Championship this weekend are incredibly high. Basically, he just needs to finish ahead of Lando. There are some permutations where with fastest laps, blah, 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 but it's done, okay? It's been done for a long time, realistically. You know, there's been definitely attempts. And look, I get it. I get why it's in the media's best interest, and of course, you know, Lando fans, it's in your best interest as well, right? To have hope and try and hold on to a title narrative. And, you know, anything can happen. But the likelihood, again, post Singapore for me was always the race I'll look back and be like, that's when Max really converted. Because that was an incredible individual performance from him. That's where he made the difference in Singapore to get that P2, even though Lando won by a mile. And of course, in Brazil, Max. The Max factor is what converted that victory in very, very difficult conditions. I mean, people say the rain is the great equalizer, which is a overly simplified way of, you know, speaking about Formula One, because of course the car does still make a difference in the rain. But come on, that was incredible. That was incredible. So, driver standings are as follows after 21 of 24. Okay, again, we've got triple header now. Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. 3 races to go. And that gap between Max and Lando, 62 points. Done deal. And yeah, look, driver standings wise, there's not really much importance in any of these positions beyond that. We've obviously got the George Russell, Lewis Hamilton head-to-head, only 2 points between the two of them. Who finished ahead of the other? Probably George. Feels like George is carrying a bit more momentum. Lewis is pretty checked out. You literally said, you know, after Brazil, he felt like he could have just chucked it in then. And fair play. I can completely understand that. I can completely understand, especially when you're seeing Ferrari doing bits and being like, just get me out of this Mercedes, please. So fair enough. I think George will win that head-to-head. Any other head-to-heads, teammate head-to-heads that could? Ocon, Gasly, there's 3 points between them two. But Pierre feels like he's carrying more momentum again. Esteban's out the door at the end of this season. So, it's pragmatic for Alpine to prioritise Pierre. They should be prioritising Pierre and making sure he's happy above all else. Albon Colapinto. I mean, the way people have been going on, Colapinto's got about 3 times the points of Albon. 12-5. But, I mean, there's not really... Joe Bottas, both on 0. They are the closest teammate pairing, statistically, of any pairing. Which just shows you how statistics can lie. Because that is technically correct. Yeah, exactly. Well, polo sport, American flag for Vegas. Had to be done. Come on, had to be done. But then team standings is where it gets a little bit more interesting, right? So McLaren 36 points ahead of Ferrari. Ferrari 13 points ahead of Red Bull. Now, of course, you got to say, Vegas was a pretty strong race for Checo last year. And we know that on the right circuits, Checo can do well in a Red Bull. We saw it at Baku. I expect Checo's going to be all right this weekend. I do. Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Maybe Abu Dhabi. I think he could be okay in Abu Dhabi. Qatar, I'm very, very reluctant to get on board the Checo hype train. But I reckon Checo will be good this weekend. I reckon he'll be decent in Abu Dhabi. So you never know. If Max really does, if he does screw the nail in over these last 3 races, wins them all, and Checo does something, I reckon they could still get second. I don't think that's completely a foregone conclusion, but 13 points they've got to make up to Ferrari. Qatar feels like it's going to be more McLaren. Again, Vegas more Ferrari. Abu Dhabi, I'd probably say more Ferrari than McLaren. Abu Dhabi. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to come down to the line. And I don't know about you lot. I think the Constructors is becoming a more compelling championship to follow as a fan. In big part because I feel like these teams, the way that they're leaning into social media and their merchandise and this new influx of fans who have come into the sport without, any preconceptions necessarily of what it is to be a Formula One fan, which I think typically in the past, outside of Ferrari, of course, is to focus on the individual. I think you've got a lot of fans joining the sport now, this is my opinion, I could be wrong here, who are gravitating just as much, if not more, towards teams than drivers. And really kind of, you look at other sports, NBA, NFL, football, it is the team first, the players second. And so I think, with time, I've got time for that. I've absolutely got time for that. I will always find the drivers the more interesting, and that's what, or I'll always, my support for Alex trumps all the other drivers, and certainly trumps all teams. There's teams I like, there's drivers I like, of course, and I think that goes with kind of any sport. But yeah, I think as time goes on, this Constructors battle is going to get more interesting, especially when it's close, and it's very, very close this year. So it's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting to see how it goes down. I still think McLaren will have enough to get it over the line. I think that, well, we'll get onto the individual conversation about drivers, right? But I feel like there's a lot been learned, or there should have been a lot learned from this year. You learn most in life from your mistakes, and McLaren have made their fair share. I think that's very fair to say. Very fair to say. Why not both? I mean, you can support however you like, Bob. If you just want to support the drivers, if you just want to support the Constructors, go at it, all right? Have your fun. Enjoy yourself. That's what is most important. Okay, cool. So, team standings done, driver standings done. Time for predictions for the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix. How's it going to play out? Well, starting off, race winner. For me, I think the winner of the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix is going to be Max Verstappen, who will then subsequently become the 2024 F1 Drivers' champion, a thoroughly deserving champion. I was thinking about it, right? There are some parallels here to when Seb won 4 in a row. So you had, when Seb won his first in 2010, it was an incredibly close season. And it was won on the final race. And of course, when Max won his first, it was an incredibly close season with Lewis and won it right at the end. And then you had 2011 where Seb was dominant, and obviously 2013 when Seb was dominant. Whereas for Max, 22 was dominant, but only in really... Charles stayed in there for a while, didn't he? It took a good 7-8 Grand Prix for Charles to really fall away. And obviously then this year, obviously Alonso pushed Vettel way closer than Lando has been able to push Max, absolutely. And I would definitely... Lando has had the car underneath him to be able to challenge Max more than he has. But also, you've got to remember, and I think it's, Lando won his first race this year. Like, he is not as far on this journey as Max has been. Max has been in a race potential winning car since 2016. Lando hasn't had a race potential winning car since 2020, 2021, probably more. But even then, it's kind of a bit, not as much as the Red Bull back in Max's early days. So there's definitely... What I mean by this is that, people look at Seb's 4 titles in a row and just blanket it with the term he was dominant. He was dominant in 2011 and 2013, but he was not dominant in 2010 or 2012. So when you look at Max, well, he didn't dominate 21 because it went down to the final race. He dominated the second half of 22. He dominated all of 23. And so Max has dominated basically from middle of 22 till Miami 24. So almost 2 years where Max really did, I think, have the sport in a stranglehold and fully dominate it. And then, of course, the car and blah, blah, blah. But the Max factor, the Max impact has made the difference and paid dividends. And he's going to win it, and he's going to thoroughly deserve it. Thoroughly deserve it. So, GG Max, well done. It's a done deal, as far as I'm concerned. Your prediction for a race winner, 1,172 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting. Make sure you subscribe to Tommo on YouTube so you can get the community post when I post the poll, and follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey if you want to get involved over there as well. And your race winner of the 1,172 of you who voted is Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, 58%. A lot of support for Charles here. Max Verstappen, 12% in P2. Lando Norris with 10%. Carlos Sainz with 7%. So an overwhelming amount of you believe Charles Leclerc is going to win this race. And yeah, I mean, look, you would think it plays to their strengths. I just still think Max is going to find a way. I still think he's going to find a way to win it. But certainly, if not Max, I would have put Charles. But I just feel like Max is going to win it in Vegas. He's going to win the race to win the championship in Vegas. He doesn't even need to win the race necessarily to win the championship, by the way. But yeah, we'll see who's right, Seamus. We'll see who's right, okay? We will see who's right. And yeah, hopefully we don't get another drain cover spearing through the bottom of a Ferrari again, because that would certainly derail Charles Leclerc's, even though it was Carlos last time, but then, it could be Charles this time. So you think Charles will win the race. What about Banger Drive? Well, look, I made a video. When did I post it? Earlier in the week? Not many of you watched it, to be honest. It didn't do very well views-wise, but I thought it was interesting to have a look at Alpine and how Brazil wasn't just luck, because it wasn't just luck. You don't hold George Russell off the end if your car's rubbish. And they've definitely made a step forward since Austin. At least one car's got in Q3, every single Q3 since Austin. So I'm going to say Pierre Gasly. I think Pierre's he's been driving well as of late. He's happy with the car underneath him. I feel good about Pierre around Vegas this weekend. So you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going full Allez le Bleu. Up the Pierre. I think he'll do well this weekend. Your banger drive is Charles Leclerc again. You think he'll win the race, and 18% of you think he'll be banger drive, then 11% Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri's always in the banger drive vote. You Australians are carrying hard. Fair play. I respect it. I respect it. And then 10% Max Verstappen, 7% Liam Lawson. Also, George Russell got 7% of the vote. But I didn't have room to put George Russell in there, so I just kind of did a coin flip in my head. I liked Liam's comments about New Zealand anthem for McLaren, so I was like, you know what? George, let's give Liam his time to shine, okay, in this poll. Allez Rose, isn't it? Rose is pink in French. I'm kidding. We'll get onto the liveries, don't you worry. We'll have a look at the special edition liveries we're seeing in Vegas this weekend, because there's a few knocking about in there. There is a few knocking about. So, banger drive race winner for you, Charles Leclerc. For me, Max and Pierre. My clanger drive, someone I'm not expecting much from this weekend, is unfortunately Lewis Hamilton. For all the reasons I've kind of stated already, I think his motivation is going to be as low as it's ever been. And going to a Grand Prix they didn't perform particularly well at last year. I don't think expectations are particularly high. And if any Mercedes driver is going to struggle more around this track, I think it's going to be Lewis, to be honest. So, yeah, not full of hope for Lewis this weekend, unfortunately. Just got to call it as I see it. Your clanger drive, Lando Norris, 20% of the vote. We'll see about that. Obviously, he had a pretty terrible Vegas Grand Prix last time out, right? He crashed on his own. Was it like 3 laps in? He barely did any of the race last year. So, yes, we'll see. Hopefully, he does better this time around. Does Lando. 17% Sergio Perez. I disagree with that one. I think Checo could be a low-key podium. I reckon Checo podium. That's actually, I'm going to say Max Charles Checo. I reckon Checo finishes ahead of both McLarens and Carlos Sainz. There you go. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Lance Stroll, 14%. Lewis Hamilton, 10% for your clanger drive vote. And then banger team, for me, I'm going Red Bull. Again, Max wins the race. Checo, I think, will do well, get a podium. I think Red Bull will clean it up this weekend. I think they'll... I don't necessarily think Max will beat Charles by loads, but I just think Max and Checo will both get good performance out of the car. I mean, Max will get great performance out of the car, obviously. I think Checo will do all right. So I'm going Red Bull. I think Red Bull banger. I'm confident they're going to be in a good place this weekend and do very well. And like I said, look, again, if you put Checo on a track that works for him, he can actually drive the Red Bull quick, hence what happened in Baku. And he drove the Red Bull well in Vegas last year, so I expect the same this. I think Checo comfortable Q3 podium. Listen, come on. And then this is my banger team. My banger team's Red Bull. Your banger team is Ferrari. 61% of the vote. 8% McLaren, 8% Haas, 7% Mercedes. 7% Mercedes. I had to double check that. 7% of you put Mercedes banger team. What? Why would 7% of you think Mercedes is going to do well? I don't know. Red Bull aren't there. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, banger team. 61% Ferrari. Grazie ragazzi. Very good. And then finally, clanger team. For me, Aston Martin. Bad to worse, perhaps. Obviously, Dan Fallows is out the door. And things don't seem to be going particularly well over at Aston. And I've tried to gas them up a few times on here. And they've consistently hurt me. So, you know what? We're going in the other direction. They're going to stink up the place this weekend. Aston, I don't think it's going to be very good for them. Especially where you've got, Alpine making a step forward. Williams, I mean, they've rebuilt their cars, right? So they typically run well around these kind of low downforce tracks. I just think like Aston could easily find themselves around this track being 8th, 9th quickest car. Obviously still quicker than Sauber, goes without saying, but, you know, it could stink. And I don't think one individual will turn this team around on their own. Okay, obviously Aston Martin have had a plan and they've had a trajectory, and the in-season upgrades have never really worked out. Been a lot of talk, you know, they've been prioritising frequency of upgrades over quality of upgrades, which is a absolutely absurd way of going about a ground effect car development plan, right? Surely. Budget cap, ground effects. These cars are so fine to changes. You can't be just chucking new things on every weekend and wishing and hoping. Like it's got to be more considered and more thought through than that. And perhaps that was partly Fallows, perhaps that was partly Martin Whitmarsh as well. Obviously, you got a lot of new people coming in, not just Adrian Newey, right? Enrico Cardile as well, obviously coming over from Ferrari. Too many cooks, right? Maybe the cooks weren't cooking properly. But either way, yeah, I think Aston Martin are going to struggle this weekend. And then your Clanger team, to round it out, is also Aston Martin. 27% of the votes. 13% McLaren, 13% Mercedes, 12% Sauber. Yeah, I don't really know where I think McLaren are going to sit this weekend, actually. I don't know. I'm not feeling... Again, I'm feeling no podium. I'm feeling no McLaren on a podium. That's what I'm feeling. So, there you go. Have you seen the Lego F1 collection? No, I have not, Harry. There was a Lego shop at JFK. Well, I flew back last night, and I was looking for F1 stuff, but it's not there. So, that was a shame. I did see Aston Martin billboard. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my story. No, not even Instagram. I posted it on Twitter. There was at Times Square, there was a billboard, and it was like, I was about to cross the road, and then in the corner of my eye, I saw Aston Martin F1 team, just like on one of these massive wraparound billboards they have in Times Square. And I was like, what the? And I was like, so I literally waited. I literally stood there for like over 5 minutes waiting for this ad to come back around so I could take the picture. Because I was like, come on, this is cool. Like, and it was like, I think it's Glenfiddich. Is that what they're called? It's like an alcohol. I don't even know what is it, whiskey or something? I'm not even sure. But they are a partner with Aston Martin. And any time I see F1s, and I saw a bunch as well in New York. I saw a bunch of ads, like billboard ads, usually like digital billboard ads of Toomey, the luggage company, with Lando, like posing over the. You got the suitcase here, and Lando's like, yeah. I was like, it's Lando. I literally I reckon about 4, maybe 5 separate occasions, whether it was at the airport or walking around, because I walked 60 kilometers in 3 days. Just, yeah, a lot of Lando knocking about. There you go. Yeah, it's not worth finding me on Instagram, to be honest. But yeah, there we go. Those are your predictions. Charles Leclerc race win, Charles Leclerc banger drive, Lando Clanger, Ferrari banger, Aston Clanger, and then mine, Max winner, banger Pierre, Clanger Lewis, banger Red Bull, Clanger Aston Martin. Cool. Excellent, lovely, jubbly, happy days. Right, shall we have a look at some liveries now? I think we should. Right, so first and foremost, we have the V carbohydrates. Now, I don't actually know what is this to do with. Why is there green on it? Can someone in chat let me know? Because I actually don't know. / kind of didn't check. Remember seeing it and thinking, oh, it's kind of cool. And you've seen the jumpers that Liam and Yuki are wearing are actually pretty cool. To be fair, I think they've done a decent job with the merch. Glitter Visa card, vibes and glitter. It gives Patronus. Yeah, it does a bit Patronus, doesn't it? they've had some debatable. I remember the denim Racing Bulls livery was a stinker MO because they just did. If they'd done the whole thing denim, then I'd have liked it a lot more, but they didn't. And I believe they could have, because again, the whole changes to livery limitations is more about the composition than it is about the colours and the prints and all that. So I think if they'd have fully denimed it, that would have been better. I think this works nicer with the pre-existing blue because you've got a blue gradient to green anyway. So this actually, for me, is pretty nice. The red on the car kind of spoils it a bit, to be honest. I like the red on the base livery, but I think with this, if they'd have taken the Hugo and the Orlan to just kind of basic, black or white, I think it would have looked nicer. Earth Honda. Yes, Chaz. This is very Earth Honda, isn't it? This is, and squares as well. A few of you have said this. Dawood as well. Yes, this is very much like the Earth Honda car from back in the day. Back in the day. But yeah, you know what? I would give this a solid 7 out of 10. I'll give that. That's my rating for the V carbohydrate. Next, we have the Alpink, the BWT Alpink F1 team. Now, this I'm much happier with. First of all, we've got the full colour nose. Okay. Compositionally, this is, I think, how the Alpine should have been all along. Obviously, at the start of the year, remember, it was like the nose was all black and you were missing a lot of colour from the front wing as well. They are down to weight, which, of course, they weren't at the start of the year. That Japan upgrade, in big part, was to get weight off of the car, first and foremost. Now they've done that. That, I guess, enables them to be a bit more creative with the... not even creative, just to use more colour, which is important. These cars are they're moving billboards, but also, there's going to be, generations watching now, and these are the cars that are going to be of their childhood, right? And we all have memorable cars from our childhood. Mine was, West McLaren was the one that I remember most vividly. But those kind of early to mid 2000 cars, those are the ones that sit with me most, just in terms of my immediate thought of F1, and then going into the kind of chrome McLaren and etc. etc. So having these cars not all just look like carbon fiber copy pastes is important. It actually is important. Thank you to Shah, by the way, for the super chat. Thank you very much. Hey Tom, as a graphic design guy myself, I love your work in these videos and streams. All top notch. Keep up the good work. Thank you to Shah. Thank you. Well, I haven't done much graphic design, especially obviously the livery designs recently, have I? I've been covering more. I feel like the YouTube kind of meta has moved towards covering the sport more as it's happening, at least for me. And I do need to kind of consider that when I'm, creating content, right? I need to consider the viewership because this is my full-time thing. But when livery launch season comes back around, which of course it will be, on the 18th of February next year, then I'm going to be smashing out livery redesigns left, right and centre. Do not you worry in any way, shape or form. So, yes, thank you to Shah. I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to getting back onto those videos because they're good. They're good fun, good opportunity for me to express myself creatively somewhat, But yeah, the Alpine, I really like this. Look, don't get me wrong, right? The Alpine of 2021 is one of my favourite liveries of all time. It's a stunning car with the blue, with the reds, with the whites. But if they're going to do a pink Formula 1 car, this is about as good as it gets. And again, the coverage is what's important. It's very simple, but it's lush. So it's a 9 for me. It's probably a 9 for me, I would say. Don't think there's much to change about this. Don't think there is much at all. And we also have another special edition livery, which is from everyone's favourite Kick Formula 1 team. with medium rare on the side. Now, it's a variation on their standard livery, and they've made it look like flames. Okay, you've got the flames, kind of, you can see them on the sides here. Okay, so it's kind of green flames on the front wing as well. Now, look, I'm not a fan of this sponsor. Okay, I very much object to understanding where stake and kick and all that. And they're, I'm not a fan. Okay, but I've got to say, this livery, I think, absolutely slaps. This is obviously it's a special edition livery. I would question a team rolling this style out for the entire season. And it kind of reminds me a bit of the flame Daniel Ricciardo helmet that he enjoyed having in recent years, which I really liked. But as a one-off livery, this, no pun intended, is absolute flames. I think this is lovely. I think this is lovely jubbly. It slaps, Brian. It does. Absolutely. Ben 10 livery. I never watched Ben 10, but Hot Wheels. And that's what I mean. Did anyone else in chat who is 31 or around my age play Hot Wheels Turbo Racing on the PlayStation? Because that was one of my favourite games growing up on the PS1. This is straight out of that Guy Fieri livery. Look, I'm sorry. As a one-off, this is, and ignoring the terrible sponsor, this is I'll give it a 9 because I don't like steak. But I played Lego Racers as well, Max. That's quality. But yeah, this is lovely jubbly. I really like this. I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. Look, it's fun. It's fun. It's a bit creative, and I don't know. I feel like liveries over recent years have become these kind of cookie cutter templates where they've got a very basic base design, and they're doing that because then they want to do special editions where they just chuck a different color on, etc., etc. This is just they've just had fun with it, and they've just done something a bit different, and I think it's pretty cool. And they've not half-arsed it as well, because sometimes you see they'll do a little bit, and they'll just put a little bit of a fancy color. It's like when Ferrari did the blue in Miami, and it was just on the wheels, and there were little bits of blue. I was like, bro, just make that. I know they're not going to do it because it's Ferrari, but just do the whole thing blue. And then it's oh my God, the Ferrari went blue. And you bring so much more eyeballs, and everyone's looking at it. The blue Ferrari, this one time. Do it properly. If you're going to do it properly. Don't half-arse it, because then you're just what's the point? But yeah, well done. Well done, Sauber. You might not be great on track, but you're going to look good when you're crossing the line 2 laps down. At least you'll look good doing it. That's the way I see it. It's a dumpster fire. No, David, it's the fire. Ignore the dumpster bit. It's just fire. Okay, it's just fire. We were robbed of a blue Ferrari this year. Absolutely. This or the Alpha Vegas livery. The Alpha Vegas livery last year, their special edition one, I didn't really love it because it was so dark, wasn't it? It had all the kind of the card, the club and the diamond and all the different card symbols. This is more cool. This is more cool. I like it. You live in Himville. That's cool, champ. Very nice. Right, cool. Okay, excellent. We've talked about liveries. We've talked about the race result. I think that is an apt time, 43 minutes in, to wrap this stream up. So thank you all for joining me here live on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. What's going to happen now is that, I'm going to go over to maybe take 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go live on Patreon for a little Patreon exclusive chat, just to kind of go over anything and everything you want to talk about. So if you do want to support what I do, you can see my stream as well in 10 minutes. It will be Patreon exclusive. But yeah, thank you Noli, Rohit, Chaz, Dan, Bryony, Manuel, Avkid, Squares, Dawood, Bomb Diver, Dana, Patrick, Edie, Yams. What's the dinner? I had a bit of pizza earlier, but because my body clock's all messed up, I don't know. I bought some cookies back from New York, actually, from a place called Crumble. Hannah asked me to get some cookies from there, so I did. I'm going to reheat them in the oven with a bit. If you reheat them, but put a bit of water in like a pan at the bottom of the oven, then it kind of steams them a bit, and it stops them going hard. That's a trick I've learned. It's good for reheating pizza as well. See, look, you learn things here at Tommo F1 Enterprises. Okay. Right, thank you all for joining. Again, patrons, see you in about 5-10 minutes. And if you want to support what I do, you can do. Links down in the description below. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.